Some pain cuts so deep you think nothing could hurt worse. Elena thought that, right until she found her boyfriend in bed with her own sister. Running blind through a mansion she'd never truly belonged in, she crashed into the one room she should have avoided. And there, in the forbidden wing, stood a man with ice in his eyes and shadows in his past, Victor Valente, Adrian's father, the man who would ruin her, save her, and change everything. Stay until the end, hit that like button, and drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. The bedroom door stood half open, spilling golden light across the hallway's marble floor. Elena Rossi shouldn't have been there, not on the third floor, not in the private wing, not anywhere near Adrian's personal suite. But she'd left her jacket in his car, and he'd texted her to grab his keys from his dresser. Simple enough. Except nothing about Adrian Valente had ever been simple. She pushed the door wider, already forming an apology for the intrusion, when the sound stopped her cold. A woman's laugh, breathless, familiar in a way that made Elena's skin crawl before her brain could catch up. The jacket slipped from her fingers. Through the crack between door and frame, she saw them. Adrian's bare back, muscles shifting under skin she'd touched 100 times, and beneath him, wrapped around him like she belonged there. Sophia? The name came out broken, barely a whisper, but it shattered everything. Her sister's head turned, their eyes met, and Sophia smiled, not apologetic, not embarrassed, triumphant. Oh. Adrian pulled back, reaching for a sheet with the kind of casual annoyance he'd shown when Elena interrupted his gaming sessions. Babe, I was going to tell you. Tell me? Elena's voice sounded strange, distant, like it belonged to someone else. Tell me what exactly? Sophia sat up, making no effort to cover herself. 25 years old, 2 years Elena's senior, and still acting like the world owed her first place in everything. That we're together now, have been for 3 months. 3 months? Elena had been with Adrian for 8. I see. The words came automatically, her body moving on autopilot as she backed toward the door. Her heel caught on the jacket she'd dropped. She stumbled, caught herself on the doorframe. Right, of course. Elena, wait, Adrian started. Don't. She held up a hand, surprised it wasn't shaking. Everything else was. Her knees, her jaw, the edges of her vision. Just don't. She ran. Down the hallway, past oil paintings of Valente ancestors who'd built their fortune on things polite society didn't discuss at dinner parties. Past the grand staircase she'd climbed so carefully the first time Adrian brought her home, nervous about impressing his family. Past the library where she'd actually believed him when he said she was different from other girls. Different. Right. Different enough to humiliate, apparently. Her phone buzzed. Once, twice, 12 times in rapid succession. She didn't look, couldn't. If she stopped moving, she'd break, and she refused to give them that satisfaction. The east wing loomed ahead, cordoned off by a velvet rope and a small brass sign, private, no entry. Elena ducked under it without thinking. The hallway narrowed here, less ornate than the rest of the house. The lighting shifted from warm gold to cold white, making everything look stark, clinical. Her footsteps echoed on hardwood instead of marble. Somewhere behind her, she heard Adrian calling her name, Sophia telling him to let her go. She pushed through a heavy oak door into darkness. The room smelled like leather and whiskey, tobacco, and something else. Something expensive and masculine that made her think of boardrooms and bad decisions. She fumbled for a light switch, found nothing, and pressed forward anyway. Her shin collided with something solid, a coffee table, judging by the sharp corner, and she bit back a cry. Shit. Shit, shit, shit. The tears came then, hot and humiliating, streaming down her face like they'd been waiting for privacy to make their entrance. She sank onto what felt like a sofa, buried her face in her hands, and let herself break. 3 months. Her own sister. Who the hell are you? Elena's head snapped up. A man stood in the doorway she'd entered through, backlit by the hallway's harsh fluorescence. Tall, over 6 feet, broad-shouldered, with the kind of presence that sucked oxygen from a room. He reached beside the doorframe and flicked a switch. Light flooded the space. Elena scrambled to her feet, swiping at her tear-stained face with the back of her hand. I'm sorry. I didn't know anyone was. I shouldn't be here. I'll go. You're crying in my study. His voice was deep, rough-edged, American accent, but something European underneath. Generally, people who plan to leave don't bother sitting down first. He moved into the room, and Elena's breath caught. She knew this man. Not personally, they'd never been introduced, but she'd seen his photograph in the main hallway, positioned between Adrian's mother, deceased 10 years, and Adrian himself. Younger in the photo, maybe early 40s, with the same sharp jawline and dark hair his son had inherited. Victor Valente, Adrian's father. She'd asked about him once, curious why such a prominent man never appeared at family dinners. Adrian had gone quiet, jaw tight, and said his father preferred to keep to himself. The way he'd said it made Elena drop the subject. Now standing 3 feet from her in a room that smelled like him, Victor looked nothing like his photograph. That man had smiled, small, polite, corporate. This one studied her with eyes so dark they looked black in the overhead light, his expression carved from granite. "I'm Elena." She swallowed hard. "Adrian's? I know who you are." The words landed like a slap. "You do? You're the girl from the university, political science major, scholarship student." His gaze traveled over her, clinical, assessing. "The one my son's been parading around like a prize." Heat crept up Elena's neck. "I should go." "You said that already." Victor crossed to a bar cart in the corner, pulled out a crystal decanter, and poured 2 fingers of amber liquid into a glass. "Yet, you're still here." "I was just—" Her voice cracked. She cleared her throat, tried again. "I needed a minute." To cry in a stranger's study? To figure out if I'm going to throw up or pass out first. The honesty surprised them both. Victor's eyebrows rose fractionally, the most expression she'd seen from him yet. He poured a second glass and held it out. "I don't drink," Elena said. "Tonight you do." She took the glass. Their fingers brushed. His were warm, calloused at the tips in a way that didn't match the expensive suit or the corner office energy he radiated. The whiskey burned going down. She coughed, eyes watering. "Easy." Victor's voice softened, barely. "It's 50-year-old scotch, not gasoline. Tastes the same to me." Almost amusement flickered across his face. "How old are you?" 23. Christ. He drained his own glass in one swallow. "You're younger than I thought. Is that a problem? For you?" "Probably." He set his glass down with a sharp click. "What did my son do?" Elena's grip tightened on her glass. "What makes you think—" "You're crying in a restricted wing of a house you have no business being in, drinking alcohol you clearly don't enjoy, and you can barely look at me." Victor's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his voice, something almost gentle. "So I'll ask again. What did Adrian do?" The kindness broke her. "My sister." The words tumbled out before she could stop them. "I found him with my sister, in his bed, and she smiled at me, like she'd won something." Silence. Victor's jaw tightened. He turned away, poured himself another drink. "I'm sorry," Elena said quickly. "You didn't need to hear that. I should—" "How long?" "What?" "How long were you together?" 8 months? He made a sound that might have been a laugh, or might have been something darker. "And your sister?" 3 months. Apparently. Elena took another sip of scotch. It burned less this time. "Overlap and everything." Victor's knuckles went white around his glass. "I don't even know why I'm telling you this." Elena shook her head. "We've never even met properly. You probably think I'm insane." "I think," Victor said slowly, "that my son is an idiot." She laughed. Couldn't help it. The sound came out broken and slightly hysterical, but it was better than crying. "That's not funny," she managed. "No," Victor agreed. "It's not." He studied her again, and this time Elena held his gaze. There was something in his eyes. Recognition, maybe? Or understanding. Like he'd been exactly where she was standing and knew the view. "What's your last name?" he asked. "Rossi." "Italian?" "Third generation. My great-grandparents came over in the 20s. Mine came in 1890. Victor's mouth curved, not quite a smile. Before it was fashionable. Before it was legal, you mean? This time he definitely smiled. Careful, Miss Rossi. You're starting to sound like you have a spine. I had one when I walked in here. Elena drained the rest of her scotch, set the glass on his desk. I'm just trying to remember where I left it. Between the second and third floor, probably, next to your dignity. She should have been offended. Instead, she laughed again, clear this time, more real. You're terrible at comfort. I don't do comfort. Victor refilled her glass without asking. I do honesty, and honestly, you're better off. That's easy to say when it's not your sister. No, it's not. His voice went flat. But family has a way of showing you who they really are when it counts. Consider yourself lucky you found out now. Elena took the glass he offered, their fingers brushing again. This time, neither of them pulled away immediately. How did you know I was a scholarship student? She asked quietly. I pay attention. To your son's girlfriends? To people who don't belong in my house. The words should have stung. Instead, they felt honest. True. I never belonged here, Elena admitted. I knew that from day one. Adrian's world, his family, this house, it's all so far from anything I grew up with. But I thought, she trailed off. You thought love would be enough. Something like that. Victor's expression shifted. For just a second, she saw past the granite exterior to something raw underneath. Pain, maybe. Or regret. It never is, he said. Before Elena could respond, voices echoed down the hallway. Adrian's, raised and angry. Sophia's, sharp and defensive. He's coming to find you, Victor said. Do you want to see him? No? Then there's a back exit through my bedroom. He gestured to a door on the far wall. Goes straight to the service stairs. You can leave without running into anyone. Elena stared at him. Why are you helping me? Because someone should have helped me when I was 23 and stupid enough to believe in happy endings. He said it without self-pity, just fact. Elena wondered what had happened to him, what had carved all that cold distance into a man who couldn't have been older than 50. The voices grew louder. Go, Victor said. Now. Elena moved toward the door, then stopped. Thank you. Don't thank me, Miss Rossi. His dark eyes held hers. Just don't make the same mistakes I did. What mistakes? Letting someone make you feel small. He turned away, dismissing her. You're not small. Don't pretend to be. She wanted to say something else, ask what he meant, but Adrian's voice came from just outside the study door. She slipped through Victor's bedroom, expensive, minimalist, smelling like him, and found the service stairs. At the bottom, she paused to catch her breath. Her phone showed 43 missed calls, 17 from Adrian, 26 from Sophia. None from her parents, but they wouldn't call. They'd wait for her to come home and explain, then take Sophia's side like they always did. Elena blocked both numbers and walked into the night. 3 days later, the university's main lecture hall could seat 300 students. Elena had chosen a seat in the back corner during orientation, and she'd kept it all semester. Close enough to hear, far enough to disappear. Today, she wished she'd sat in the front. Professor Hendricks had retired unexpectedly. Medical emergency, the department email said. And his replacement would be taking over their advanced political theory seminar starting immediately. Elena had been too busy surviving the last 72 hours to pay much attention to the announcement. Now, watching students file in around her, she felt the familiar numbness that had become her default setting. No tears left, no anger, just a hollow space where 8 months of her life used to be. The department chair walked to the podium, microphone crackling to life. Good morning, everyone. I know the transition has been abrupt, but I'm pleased to introduce our visiting lecturer for the remainder of the semester. He'll be teaching advanced political theory and international relations. Many of you may recognize his name from his work with the Valente Foundation. Elena's head snapped up. Where he's been serving as senior advisor on global economic policy. He's also authored 3 books on power structures in modern democracies. Please welcome Professor Victor Valente. The room erupted in polite applause. Elena stopped breathing. Victor walked onto the stage in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her entire tuition, Same granite expression, same dark eyes. He scanned the audience with the same clinical assessment he'd used in his study. And when his gaze swept over her section, she could have sworn his eyes locked on hers. Held. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe. Or recognition. Then he looked away, addressed the room like she didn't exist. "Let's skip the pleasantries," he said. His voice carried without the microphone, deep and commanding. "I'm not here to make friends or hold your hand through theory you should have learned as undergraduates. If you're in this class, I expect you to think critically, argue effectively, and challenge every assumption, including mine." A girl in the front row raised her hand. "Should we call you Professor Valente or—" "Victor is fine. I don't care much for titles." Whispers rippled through the room. First name basis with a Valente? The name alone carried weight, old money, political connections, the kind of influence that opened doors most people didn't know existed. Elena sank lower in her seat. "Your first assignment," Victor continued, "is due Friday. 10 pages analyzing power dynamics in contemporary relationships, political, corporate, or personal. I want you to examine who holds power, how it's maintained, and what happens when that balance shifts." He smiled then, sharp and humorless. "Make it interesting. I have 200 papers to grade, and if I'm bored, you'll know." The lecture began. Elena tried to focus. She really did. But every time Victor moved, every time his voice cut through the space between them, she remembered his study. The scotch. The way he'd looked at her like he actually saw her. "You're not small. Don't pretend to be." When class ended 90 minutes later, Elena packed her bag with shaking hands. Students clustered around the podium, eager to introduce themselves, ask questions, make impressions. She headed for the exit. "Miss Rossi." His voice stopped her at the door. She turned slowly. Victor stood at the podium, arms crossed, watching her over the heads of 3 students trying to get his attention. "A word, please." The students glanced back at her, curious. Elena's stomach dropped. "I have another class. This won't take long." It wasn't a request. She waited while he finished with the other students, each minute stretching into eternity. Finally, the last one left, and it was just them in a room built for hundreds. Victor walked down from the stage, closing the distance between them with measured steps. "You didn't mention you were a student here," he said. "You didn't ask." "Fair enough." He stopped 3 feet away. Professional distance. His expression gave nothing away. "This is awkward." That's one word for it. "Are you planning to drop the class?" Elena's chin lifted. "No." "Good." Something shifted in his eyes. "Because you're smarter than half the people in that room, and I'd hate to lose the only student who might actually make this semester interesting." "How would you know if I'm smart? You've never met me before." "I've met you twice. Once when you were crying in my study, and once just now when you thought I wouldn't notice you trying to hide in the back row." Victor's mouth curved. "Both times, you struck me as someone who thinks too much and feels too deeply. That's rare." "Is that a compliment?" "It's an observation." "Sounds like a liability." "It is." He studied her face. "How are you?" The question caught her off guard. Not how's school, or have you recovered, or any of the deflective pleasantries she'd been fielding for days. Just how are you, like he actually wanted to know. "Surviving," Elena said. "That's all?" "What else is there?" Victor's expression darkened. "Plenty. But survival's a start." They stood there, the silence stretching. Elena knew she should leave. This felt dangerous. Not physically, but in some other way she couldn't name, like standing too close to a fire and forgetting to step back. "I should go," she said. "Yes." Neither of them moved. "Miss Rossi—" "Elena." His jaw tightened. "Elena, what happened at my house was a moment of weakness," she finished. "I know, I won't bring it up again." "I wasn't going to say that." "Then what were you going to say?" Victor looked at her for a long moment. Whatever he saw made him shake his head slightly, like he was arguing with himself. "That I'm glad you didn't drop out," he said finally, "and that if my son tries to contact you, you should tell him to go to hell." Elena's laugh came out sharp. "Already done." "Good." He stepped back, restoring the professional distance. "I'll see you Wednesday." "Wednesday," she echoed. She made it halfway to the door before he spoke again. Elena. She looked back. Don't sit in the back next time. I want to see your face when you disagree with me. How do you know I'll disagree? Because you're not small, Victor said quietly, and you're done pretending to be. Elena couldn't stop thinking about him. It was wrong, inappropriate, probably unethical, definitely complicated. Victor was her professor, Adrian's father, a man twice her age with shadows in his past and ice in his veins. And yet, Wednesday's lecture found her sitting in the fourth row instead of the back. When Victor asked a question about power imbalances in democratic systems, she raised her hand and argued that modern democracies were just oligarchies with better PR. He smiled, actually smiled. Interesting theory, Miss Rossi. Prove it. She did. 10 minutes of argument, citing sources from memory, building a case that had half the class nodding and the other half looking ready to fight her in the parking lot. When she finished, Victor's dark eyes held hers. Well done, he said. Wrong on at least 3 counts, but well done. I'm not wrong. Then prove it in your paper. I will. The challenge hung between them, electric. After class, Elena packed her bag and headed for the library. Her phone buzzed, a text from her roommate asking if she wanted to grab dinner. She was typing a reply when she collided with someone in the hallway. Sorry, She looked up. Adrian stood there, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Elena, please. Can we just talk? No. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. You can't have it. She moved a step around him. He caught her arm. I made a mistake. Let go of me. Just listen. The lady said, no. Victor's voice cut through the hallway like a blade. He stood 10 feet away, jacket draped over one arm, expression carved from granite. Students milling around them stopped to stare. Adrian's hand dropped from Elena's arm. Dad. Adrian? Victor's tone could have frozen fire. I believe you're needed somewhere else. This is between me and Elena. This is between you and the concept of consent, which you seem to be struggling with. Victor moved closer, and even though he wasn't particularly tall, maybe 6'1", 6'2", he seemed to fill the entire hallway. She told you no. Walk away. Father and son stared at each other. Elena had never seen Adrian back down from anything. He was charming, confident, used to getting his way, but standing there in front of Victor, he looked young, uncertain. We'll talk later, Adrian muttered. He shot Elena one last look, pleading, angry, she couldn't tell, and left. The hallway slowly returned to normal. Students moved on. Conversations resumed. Victor turned to her. Are you all right? Fine. Elena's hands were shaking. She shoved them in her pockets. Thanks. Has he approached you before? Few times. Texts, calls. I blocked him. And your sister? Same. Victor's jaw tightened. If either of them bothers you again, tell me. Why would you care? The question came out sharper than she intended. Victor's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Because someone should, he said simply. He left before she could respond. The next week blurred together. Classes, papers, avoiding her family's increasingly hostile calls about being dramatic and making Sophia feel bad. Elena threw herself into work, spending 14-hour days in the library, surviving on coffee and spite. Victor's class became the highlight of her week. He was brilliant, ruthless in his critiques, generous with his praise when students earned it, and absolutely uninterested in anything resembling bullshit. He challenged them constantly, pushed them harder, expected more. And he watched Elena. Not obviously, not inappropriately, but she felt his attention like a physical weight every time she spoke, every time she turned in an assignment, every time she stayed after class to argue a point he'd made. You're wrong about Machiavelli, she told him after a Friday lecture. Am I? He wasn't advocating for tyranny. He was describing what he saw, how power actually works versus how we pretend it works. And the difference is honesty. Elena met his eyes. He was honest about human nature. That's what made everyone uncomfortable. Victor's expression shifted. Keep going. People want to believe we're good, that love and justice and fairness matter more than power. But Machiavelli knew better. He knew that when it comes down to it, people choose survival over morality every single time. You sound cynical. I sound experienced. Silence. Your paper on power dynamics, Victor said quietly. It was exceptional. You gave me an A- because you buried your thesis in the third paragraph instead of leading with it. He leaned against his desk, but the analysis was sharp, personal even. The assignment said we could analyze personal relationships. Most students picked corporations or governments. You picked family. His dark eyes held hers. Brave choice. Elena's throat tightened. Or stupid. No, brave. He straightened. Do you have plans tonight? The question caught her completely off guard. What? For dinner, do you have plans? Her brain short-circuited. Are you asking me to dinner? Yes. Victor's expression remained neutral, but something in his voice betrayed him. Nervousness, maybe. There's a symposium at the faculty center tonight, guest speakers on international policy reform. I thought you might be interested. A symposium. With dinner after, off campus. Off campus, she repeated. If you'd rather not... No, yes. Elena took a breath. What time? Something that might have been relief crossed Victor's face. 7. I'll pick you up. You don't know where I live. Northside Apartments, Building C, 3rd floor. At her expression, he added, It's on your enrollment forms. I'm not stalking you. Just memorizing my address. Just paying attention. He grabbed his jacket. Wear something nice. These things tend to be formal. Victor. He stopped. This is a bad idea, she said quietly. Probably. You're my professor. Technically, I'm a visiting lecturer. Different paperwork. You're also my ex-boyfriend's father. Victor's expression went cold. He has nothing to do with this. Doesn't he? No. He moved closer, not crowding her, but close enough that she could smell his cologne. Expensive, subtle. This is about you and me. Nothing else. There is no you and me. Isn't there? The air between them felt electric. Elena should have said no. Should have walked away. Should have remembered every single reason this was wrong. 7 o'clock, she said. Victor's smile was small but genuine. I'll see you then. He picked her up in a black Mercedes that probably cost more than her parents' house. Elena wore the one formal dress she owned, simple black, nothing special, and felt underdressed the moment she saw him. Victor wore a dark suit that fit like it had been made for him. Probably had been. You look beautiful, he said. You look like you're going to a funeral. These things usually feel like one. He opened the passenger door. Ready? The symposium was exactly as boring as Elena expected. 2 hours of academics and policymakers discussing economic reform in developing nations with all the passion of people reading grocery lists. Victor sat beside her, occasionally leaning close to whisper sarcastic commentary that made her bite her lip to keep from laughing. That's Senator Crawford's aide, he murmured during one particularly dry presentation. He plagiarized his master's thesis, wholesale. How do you know that? I was on his thesis committee. And you didn't say anything? He was sleeping with the department chair, politics. Victor's breath was warm against her ear. Everything's politics. After the symposium ended, they skipped the formal dinner and drove to a small Italian restaurant 20 minutes from campus. Family-owned, no corporate polish, the kind of place Elena's grandmother would have loved. How did you find this? She asked as they settled into a corner booth. I've been coming here for years. The owner's wife makes pappardelle that'll ruin you for every other pasta. You come here often? When I need to remember what real food tastes like. The waiter brought wine without asking. Clearly knew Victor, clearly had his order memorized. Elena watched him navigate the space with easy familiarity, so different from the cold professor in the lecture hall or the granite-faced man in his study. Who are you? She asked when they were alone again. Victor raised an eyebrow. That's a complicated question. I have time. He studied her for a moment, then poured them both wine. What do you want to know? Everything? Nothing? I don't know. Elena took a sip. Better than the scotch, smoother. You're Adrian's father, but you're nothing like him. You teach at a university, but you're not really a professor. You have a house the size of a museum, but you eat at family restaurants. And that confuses you. Everything about you confuses me. Victor's laugh was quiet, almost surprised. Fair enough. So? So what? Who are you, Victor Valente? He was quiet for a long moment, turning his wine glass in slow circles. I'm someone who made a lot of mistakes when I was younger, he said finally. Built an empire on things I'm not proud of. Hurt people. Used people. Became exactly what my father wanted me to be. And what was that? Powerful. Ruthless. Empty. The honesty in his voice made Elena's chest tighten. What changed? She asked softly. My wife died. He said it simply, without self-pity. 10 years ago. Cancer. And I realized I'd spent 2 decades building something that meant nothing without her. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was a long time ago. Time doesn't make it hurt less. Victor's eyes met hers. No, it doesn't. The food arrived, pappardelle for him, ravioli for her. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, the restaurant's warmth and noise creating a bubble around them. Can I ask you something? Elena said. Haven't you been asking me things all night? A real question, not small talk. All right. Why did you invite me tonight? Victor set down his fork. Because I wanted to. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. He leaned back. You interest me, Elena. You're sharp, you don't back down, and you see things most people miss. I enjoy talking to you. That's all? Is there supposed to be more? Yes, her brain screamed. No, her common sense argued. Maybe, her heart whispered. I don't know, she admitted. Neither do I. Victor's expression softened. But I'd like to find out. This is still a bad idea. The worst. You're my professor. For 3 more months. Your son is irrelevant. Victor's voice went hard. Adrian made his choices. So did you. What happened between you is over. What if it's not? It is. He reached across the table, and after a moment's hesitation, Elena gave him her hand. His palm was warm, calloused, steady. He didn't deserve you. I knew that the moment I met you. You didn't even know me. I knew enough. His thumb traced circles on her palm. You were crying in a stranger's study instead of making a scene. You thanked me when you didn't have to. You asked questions instead of demanding answers. That just makes me polite, not special. You stood up in class and argued with me about oligarchies. Victor smiled. That makes you extraordinary. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. I should go, she whispered. You should. Neither of them moved. Victor, I know. He squeezed her hand once, then let go. I'll take you home. The drive back was quiet. When they pulled up outside her apartment building, Victor walked her to the door like they were living in some old-fashioned movie. Thank you for tonight, Elena said. I had a good time. So did I. Even though it was a terrible idea? Especially because it was a terrible idea. She laughed, and he smiled. Real, genuine, nothing cold about it. Good night, Elena. Good night. She made it 3 steps before turning back. Victor? He was still standing there watching her. Yes? What happens now? His expression went serious. I don't know, but I think we should probably find out. Even if it's complicated. Everything worth having is complicated. Elena nodded slowly. Okay. Okay? Yeah, she smiled. Okay. She went inside, closed the door, leaned against it with her heart racing and her mind spinning, and the feel of his hand still warm against hers. This was wrong. This was dangerous. This was going to break her, and she was going to do it anyway. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of stolen moments and careful distance. In class, Victor was all business, demanding, sharp, treating Elena exactly like every other student. But after, when the lecture hall emptied and they were alone, something shifted. A look that lasted too long. A conversation that started about Rousseau and ended with them standing too close, breathing the same air. They had coffee twice, dinner once more. Always off campus, always somewhere quiet where no one would recognize them. They talked about everything, her childhood in a cramped apartment where money was always tight, his years building a business empire he no longer believed in, the ways people became versions of themselves they didn't recognize. My father wanted me ruthless, Victor said one night over wine at the Italian place that had become their spot. So I became ruthless, efficient, cold. By the time I realized what I'd lost, it was too late to get it back. What did you lose? Myself. He turned his glass slowly. The version of me that believed in things, that felt things. You feel things now. Do I? Elena reached across the table, covered his hand with hers. You're here with me. That counts. His fingers curled around hers, and for a moment neither of them spoke. The restaurant buzzed with life around them, but in their corner booth, the world narrowed to just this. Just them. I shouldn't want this, Victor said quietly. You're 23, my student, my son's ex-girlfriend. I know. Any one of those things should be enough to stop me. But they're not. No. His dark eyes held hers. They're not. Elena knew she should pull back, should be smart, should remember that men like Victor Valente didn't fall for girls like her, scholarship students who waited tables on weekends and bought their formal dresses at thrift stores. But when he looked at her like that, like she was something rare and worth protecting, all her common sense went quiet. What are we doing? She whispered. Something stupid. Victor, I know. He lifted her hand, pressed his lips to her knuckles. The gesture was old-fashioned, intimate. But I can't seem to stop. Her phone buzzed. She ignored it. It buzzed again. You should check that, Victor said. Elena pulled out her phone, glanced at the screen, and felt her stomach drop. 15 missed calls from her mother, 3 voicemails, and a text from Sophia that made her blood run cold. Dad's in the hospital. Heart attack. Get here now. I have to go. She stood so fast her chair scraped. My father, I'll drive you. No, I can, but, Elena. Victor was already standing, already pulling cash from his wallet and throwing it on the table. Let me help. The hospital was 40 minutes away. Victor drove fast but steady, one hand on the wheel, the other holding hers across the center console. He didn't ask questions, didn't tell her everything would be fine, just stayed solid and present while her world tilted. They pulled up to the emergency entrance 20 minutes later. Go, Victor said. I'll park and wait. You don't have to. Go. She went. Inside, the hospital smelled like antiseptic and fear. Elena found her family in a waiting room on the 3rd floor, her mother red-eyed and shaking, Sophia pale but composed, her younger brother Marco pacing like a caged animal. Elena, her mother stood, pulled her into a crushing hug. Oh, thank God. What happened? Heart attack. They're doing tests now. Her mother's voice cracked. The doctors said it was serious. Elena held her tighter. Over her mother's shoulder, she caught Sophia's eye. Her sister looked away first. An hour passed. Then 2. A doctor came out, spoke in calm, clinical terms about blockages and procedures and recovery timelines. Her father was stable, out of danger, lucky to be alive. Elena sagged against the wall, relief making her legs weak. You can see him soon, the doctor said. 2 at a time. Her mother went first, taking Marco with her. That left Elena alone with Sophia in a waiting room that suddenly felt too small. Thanks for coming, Sophia said after a long silence. He's my father. I know. I just thought... She stopped. Never mind. Thought what? Sophia met her eyes. That you wouldn't, after everything. After you slept with my boyfriend, you mean? Adrian was never really yours. The words landed like a slap. Elena stood, ready to walk away, but Sophia grabbed her arm. Wait, please. Her sister's voice cracked. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Elena stared at her. Sophia never apologized, never admitted fault, never showed weakness. What do you want? Elena asked. To explain. Maybe. I don't know. Sophia let go, wrapped her arms around herself. You always had everything so easy. Good grades, scholarships, people liked you. I had to fight for everything. So you fought for my boyfriend? I fought for something that made me feel like I mattered. Sophia's eyes were bright with unshed tears. You don't know what it's like, always being second, always being the one people overlook. You're right. I don't know what that's like. Elena's voice was ice. Because I was too busy being invisible while you took everything I had. Elena, don't. Just don't. She turned toward the exit. I'm here for Dad, not for you. She made it to the stairwell before the tears came, pressed her back against the cold concrete wall, and let herself break for the second time in a month. Elena? Victor's voice cut through her crying. She looked up to find him standing at the landing above, jacket gone, tie loosened, looking at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. How did you... I told the nurse I was family. He came down the stairs, sat beside her on the cold floor. How's your father? Stable? He's going to be okay. Good. They sat in silence. Victor didn't try to fix it, didn't offer empty platitudes, just sat with her while she cried, his presence steady and warm against her side. My sister tried to apologize, Elena said finally. Did you accept? No. Good. She laughed wetly. You're supposed to tell me forgiveness is healing or some shit like that. I'm supposed to tell you what you need to hear. Victor's arm came around her shoulders, pulling her close. And what you need to hear is that you don't owe her forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Elena buried her face in his shoulder. He smelled like expensive cologne and coffee and something uniquely him, safe, home. Thank you for being here, she whispered. Where else would I be? She pulled back to look at him. You barely know me. I know enough. Victor. He kissed her. It wasn't soft or tentative. It was fierce, consuming, 10 years of loneliness and 3 weeks of restraint finally breaking. His hand cupped her face, thumb stroking her cheekbone, and Elena forgot how to breathe. When they pulled apart, both of them were shaking. That was, Elena started. A mistake, Victor finished, but he didn't let go. A terrible, reckless mistake. Yeah. We should stop. Absolutely. He kissed her again. This time Elena kissed back, hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. She'd never felt anything like this. This desperate, aching need to be consumed by someone, to let someone else carry the weight for a while. Victor's phone rang. They broke apart, both breathing hard. Ignore it, Elena said. I can't. He pulled out his phone, glanced at the screen, and swore under his breath. It's the university. I have to take this. He stood, ran a hand through his hair, now messy from her fingers, and stepped away to answer. Elena leaned back against the wall, heart hammering, lips still tingling. What the hell were they doing? Victor returned 2 minutes later, expression grim. What's wrong? She asked. There's a faculty meeting tomorrow morning, emergency session about visiting lecturer contracts. His jaw tightened. Someone filed a complaint. About what? About me. Specifically about inappropriate conduct with students. Elena's blood ran cold. Do they know about... I don't know what they know. Victor crouched in front of her. But we need to be careful. If anyone finds out about us, they won't. Elena, they won't, she repeated firmly. We've been careful. No one knows. But even as she said it, doubt crept in. The looks they'd shared in class. The way Victor's attention lingered on her. Had someone noticed? I should go, Victor said. Deal with this before it becomes a problem. Okay. He hesitated, then leaned in and kissed her forehead. I'll call you tomorrow. Victor? She caught his hand. Whatever happens, nothing's going to happen. But his voice lacked conviction. Get some rest. Be with your family. He left, and Elena sat alone in the stairwell, wondering if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. The faculty meeting was closed door, but gossip spread through the university like wildfire. By noon the next day, everyone knew. A student had filed a formal complaint against Professor Valente for favoritism and inappropriate attention toward a female student in his advanced political theory class. The student wasn't named, but Elena knew. She found Adrian outside the student center, leaning against his car like he'd been waiting for her. Probably had been. "You look tired," he said. "What did you do?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "Cut the shit, Adrian." Elena stopped 3 feet away, arms crossed. "You filed that complaint. Can you prove it?" "I don't need to prove it. I know." Adrian pushed off the car, came closer. "He's using you, Elena. Can't you see that? My father doesn't care about anyone but himself. This has nothing to do with him, doesn't it?" Adrian's smile was cruel. "You think it's a coincidence he's suddenly teaching here? Suddenly interested in a girl half his age who just happens to be his son's ex? You don't know anything about— I know my father." Adrian's voice dropped. "I know exactly what he's capable of. And if you think he actually cares about you, you're deluding yourself." Elena's hand moved before she thought about it. The slap echoed across the courtyard, sharp and satisfying. Adrian touched his reddening cheek, eyes flashing. "Feel better?" "Actually, yes." "He's going to hurt you, just like he hurt my mother, just like he hurts everyone who gets close to him." "Your mother died of cancer." "My mother died alone while my father was building his empire and fucking his secretary." Adrian's voice turned bitter. "He came to the hospital twice in 6 months. When she died, he didn't even cry." Elena's stomach twisted. "I don't believe you. Ask him. Ask him about Rebecca." "Who's Rebecca?" "His secretary. The one he was with when my mother needed him most." Adrian stepped back. "You want to know who Victor Valente really is? Ask him about the people he's destroyed. Then decide if you still want to play this game." He left her standing there, mind reeling. That night, Elena called Victor. He answered on the first ring. "Are you okay?" he asked immediately. "Who's Rebecca?" Silence. "Victor?" "Where did you hear that name?" "Adrian. He said—" She swallowed hard. "He said you were having an affair while your wife was dying." More silence. Elena's heart sank. "It's not that simple," Victor said finally. "Then explain it to me." Not over the phone." His voice was rough. "Can you meet me?" 20 minutes later, Elena stood in the parking lot of a closed coffee shop 3 miles from campus. Victor's Mercedes pulled up, and she got in without a word. He drove them to the same overlook where they'd had their first real conversation, the city spreading out below like a galaxy of lights. "Rebecca was my assistant," Victor said, staring straight ahead. "Brilliant, ambitious, 25 years old, and yes, I slept with her." The confirmation hurt more than Elena expected. "My wife was sick for 18 months before she died," Victor continued, "and I was drowning. The business was falling apart. I was losing the only person I'd ever loved, and I couldn't—" He stopped, jaw tight. "I couldn't watch her die. So I ran. I threw myself into work, into deals, into anything that let me forget for a few hours that I was losing her. And into Rebecca. And into Rebecca." His hands gripped the steering wheel. "It lasted 3 months. When my wife found out, she didn't cry, didn't yell, just looked at me like I was a stranger." Elena's throat ached. "What did you do?" "I ended it with Rebecca. Fired her. Paid her enough money to disappear." Victor's voice was hollow. "And I stayed with my wife until the end. But she never forgave me. Died hating me. And she had every right." "Adrian said you only visited her twice." "Adrian doesn't know what he's talking about." Victor finally looked at her. "I was there every day for the last 2 months. Held her hand, read to her, told her I was sorry until the words stopped meaning anything. She died with her sister by her side because that's who she wanted, not me." Tears streamed down Elena's face. "I'm not a good man, Elena." Victor reached over, wiped her cheeks with his thumb. "I've done terrible things. Hurt people. Made choices I can't take back. And if you're smart, you'll walk away right now. And if I'm not smart, then you'll get hurt, because that's what I do. I hurt the people who care about me." Elena unbuckled her seatbelt, turned to face him fully. "You want to know what I think?" "Not particularly. I think you've spent 10 years punishing yourself for being human, for being scared and weak when someone you loved was dying. for making a mistake that you've clearly never forgiven yourself for. It wasn't just a mistake. It was. She cupped his face, made him look at her. It was a terrible, selfish mistake. But it doesn't make you a monster. It makes you someone who was drowning and grabbed the wrong lifeline. You don't understand. I understand that you're here, that you could have walked away from me a dozen times and you haven't, that you've been nothing but honest with me, even when the truth makes you look bad. Elena's voice cracked. I understand that you're trying to protect me from yourself, but I don't need protecting. I need you to stop running. Victor closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were bright with something that might have been hope or might have been fear. If we do this, he said slowly, it won't be easy. People will talk, judge, try to tear us apart. Let them try. Elena, I'm not afraid of you, Victor. I'm not afraid of your past or your mistakes or the fact that you're complicated and damaged and sometimes cold. She leaned closer. I'm only afraid of one thing. What's that? That you'll push me away because you think that's what I deserve. His hand came up to cup her neck, fingers threading into her hair. You deserve better than me. That's not your decision to make. He kissed her then, deep and desperate, like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning for years. Elena kissed back with everything she had, pouring all her fear and hope and stubborn faith into it. When they finally broke apart, both of them were shaking. This is going to be a disaster, Victor murmured against her lips. Probably. We could both lose everything. I know. You're sure? Elena pulled back to look at him. Are you? Victor studied her face like he was memorizing it. I've never been sure of anything in my life, but I'm sure of this. Then stop talking and kiss me again. He did. They stayed in that parking lot for hours, talking and kissing and mapping out the impossible space between them. Victor told her about his childhood in Brooklyn, about building his first business at 22 with borrowed money and borrowed courage. Elena told him about growing up invisible, always second to Sophia, always striving and never quite measuring up. You're not invisible, Victor said, tracing her jawline with his thumb. You're the most vivid thing in any room. You're biased. Completely. He smiled. But that doesn't make it less true. Around 2 a.m, he drove her home, walked her to her door despite her protests. I have a faculty hearing in 6 hours, he said, about that complaint. What are you going to tell them? The truth. That I've shown no favoritism in grading, maintained professional boundaries in class, and done nothing that violates university policy. All of which is technically true. Technically. His mouth curved. The best kind of true. Elena laughed despite herself. What happens if they don't believe you? Then I lose my position here. Go back to consulting. Find another way to spend my days. And us? That depends on you. Victor's expression grew serious. If they fire me, there's no policy violation anymore, no power imbalance, just you and me. Is that what you want? I want you. He said it simply, without poetry or pretense. However I can have you. Elena's heart did something complicated in her chest. Then fight for this, for us. I intend to. He kissed her one last time, soft and promising, then left. Elena went inside, collapsed on her bed, and didn't sleep at all. The next morning, she sat through 2 classes in a fog of exhaustion and anxiety. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart jumped. But it was never Victor. At noon, her roommate found her in the library. You need to see this, Maya said, shoving her phone into Elena's hands. The university's online forum was exploding. Someone had posted a screenshot of Victor and Elena having coffee together 2 weeks ago. The angle was bad, the quality worse, but you could clearly see them sitting across from each other, his hand covering hers on the table. The caption read, "Guess who's sleeping with Professor Valente for an A?" Elena's vision tunneled. There's more, Maya said quietly. She scrolled down. More photos. Victor and Elena at the Italian restaurant, in his car, standing too close outside the lecture hall. Someone's been following you, Maya said, for weeks. Adrian, Elena's hands shook. It has to be Adrian. Doesn't matter who it was. It's out there now. Maya took her phone back. The administration's going to see this. They're probably already investigating. I need to talk to Victor. Elena, I need to talk to him, now. She tried calling. It went straight to voicemail. Tried again. Same thing. At 2 p.m., an email arrived from the dean's office requesting her presence for a meeting at 4. At 3:30, Victor finally called. Don't say anything, he said immediately. Not to the dean, not to anyone. I have a lawyer coming. This is going to get messy. Victor, I'm sorry. This isn't your fault. Adrian's been following us, taking pictures. I know. Victor's voice was tight with controlled rage. I saw the posts. My lawyer's already working on getting them taken down, but the damage is done. What are we going to do? Silence. Victor? I don't know, he said quietly. But whatever happens, I need you to trust me. I do. Even if it looks like I'm pushing you away? Elena's stomach dropped. What are you planning? To protect you, whatever it takes. Victor, don't. I love you. The words hit her like lightning. What? I love you, Elena Rossi, and I'm not going to let this destroy you. You can't say that and then 4 o'clock, Dean's office. Remember what I said, don't admit anything. He hung up. Elena stared at her phone, heart racing, mind spinning. He loved her, and he was about to do something stupid to protect her. At 4 p.m., Elena sat across from Dean Morrison, a severe woman in her 60s who looked like she'd never smiled in her life. Victor's lawyer sat beside Elena, a sharp woman named Caroline who'd appeared 20 minutes before the meeting and told Elena to let her do the talking. Victor sat on the opposite side of the room, expression carved from stone. Let's be direct, Dean Morrison said. We have photographs suggesting an inappropriate relationship between Professor Valente and Miss Rossi. Professor Valente, would you like to explain? There's nothing to explain, Victor said calmly. Miss Rossi and I have had coffee twice. Both times we discussed her academic interests and career goals. There's no policy against mentoring students outside of class. Mentoring? Dean Morrison's tone dripped skepticism. Is that what we're calling it? That's what it is. The photographs suggest otherwise. The photographs are taken out of context by someone with a clear agenda. Victor leaned forward. My son filed the original complaint after Miss Rossi ended their relationship. This is retaliation, nothing more. And yet you've shown considerable interest in Miss Rossi's academic progress. I show interest in all my students' academic progress. That's my job. Dean Morrison turned to Elena. Miss Rossi, do you have anything to add? Caroline put a hand on Elena's arm, but Elena shook her head. Professor Valente has been nothing but professional, Elena said clearly. He's a brilliant teacher who challenges his students to think critically. If someone's trying to manufacture a scandal, it's because they want to hurt him, or me, or both. I see. Dean Morrison steepled her fingers. Nevertheless, the optics are problematic. Professor Valente, I'm afraid we'll need to terminate your visiting lecturer position effective immediately. No. Elena stood. You can't. Miss Rossi, sit down. He hasn't done anything wrong. The appearance of impropriety is enough. Dean Morrison's expression was granite. Professor Valente will be compensated for the remainder of his contract, but his teaching duties end today. Victor stood slowly. I understand. No, you don't, Elena started. Elena, his voice cut through her protest. It's fine. It's not fine. It is. He looked at Dean Morrison. Are we done here? Yes. Please collect your materials and vacate your office by end of day. Victor nodded once and left without looking at Elena. She tried to follow, but Caroline stopped her. Let him go, the lawyer said quietly. He's doing what he thinks is right. What he thinks is right is running away. No, it's protecting you. Caroline gathered her papers. Trust him. Elena slumped back in her chair, watching through the dean's window as Victor crossed the quad, shoulders straight, never looking back. He'd said he loved her, and then he'd walked away. Victor didn't call that night, or the next day, or the day after that. Elena tried his number 17 times before accepting that he wasn't going to answer. She showed up at his house twice, the massive estate where this whole disaster had started, but the gates were closed, the windows dark. A housekeeper finally appeared the second time and told her politely but firmly that Mr. Valente wasn't receiving visitors. Please, Elena had said. Just tell him I need to talk to him. I'll pass along the message, miss. The gate closed in her face. By the end of the week, Elena felt like she was losing her mind. The campus had turned into a minefield. Everywhere she went, people whispered, pointed. Some looked at her with pity, others with contempt. A girl in her ethics seminar called her a homewrecker, loud enough for half the class to hear. Maya found her crying in their apartment that night, surrounded by half-empty wine bottles and the remnants of dignity. Okay, that's it. Her roommate grabbed the wine, poured it down the sink despite Elena's protests. You need to eat something that isn't cheese crackers and make a plan. I had a plan. It involved Victor not being a coward. He's not a coward. He's protecting you. By disappearing? By letting everyone think I slept my way to good grades? Elena's laugh was bitter. Some protection. What did you expect him to do? Fight the university? His own son? The entire world? Maya sat beside her on the couch. He's trying to make this go away. By making himself go away. Maybe that's the only way he knows how. Elena wanted to argue, but she was too tired, too hollowed out. She'd spent 3 weeks falling for a man who'd warned her exactly what would happen, and she'd done it anyway. Her phone buzzed. For a second, her heart leaped, but it was just her mother. Family dinner Sunday. Your father wants to see you. Don't be late. Elena typed back a quick agreement and tossed the phone aside. You should go, Maya said gently. See your dad. Get out of your head for a few hours. Sophia will be there. So punch her in the face. I'll bail you out. Despite everything, Elena smiled. Sunday dinner at the Rossi house was exactly as awful as Elena expected. Her father looked better, thinner, tired, but alive. That was something. Her mother fussed over everyone, piling plates with pasta and garlic bread like carbs could fix a broken family. Marco barely looked up from his phone, and Sophia sat across from Elena wearing an expression that might have been guilt or might have been smugness. Hard to tell with her. So, their father said halfway through the meal, I heard there was some trouble at school. Elena's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Nothing I can't handle, she said carefully. That's not what Sophia told us. Of course, Sophia had told them. Elena set down her fork, appetite gone. What exactly did Sophia say? That you were involved with a professor. Her father's voice was tight. An older man, married. He's not married. His wife died 10 years ago. Elena. Her mother's hand flew to her chest. Tell me it's not true. It's complicated. It's not complicated, her father said. Either you were sleeping with your professor or you weren't. The room went silent. Elena looked at Sophia, who had the decency to stare at her plate. Then at her parents, who looked at her like she'd committed murder. I'm in love with him, she said quietly. Her mother made a sound like she'd been slapped. Love. Her father's laugh was harsh. You're 23 years old. You don't know what love is. I know what it feels like to be seen, to matter to someone, to be chosen. Elena's voice shook but didn't break. And I know I'd rather have that for a few weeks than spend my whole life pretending to be someone I'm not. This man, this professor, he took advantage of you. He didn't take advantage of anyone. I made my own choices. Bad choices, her mother said. Elena, do you know what people are saying? What this does to our family's reputation? Your reputation? Elena stood, chair scraping. Are you serious right now? Sit down, her father ordered. No. She grabbed her jacket. I came here because you asked me to, because I wanted to see Dad and make sure he was okay. But I'm not going to sit here and be lectured about choices by people who've never seen me as anything but an inconvenience. That's not fair, her mother protested. Isn't it? When's the last time you asked about my classes? My scholarship? My actual life? Elena looked around the table. You called me because Dad was sick, not because you wanted me here. And now you're judging me for finding someone who actually gives a damn about who I am. Watch your mouth, her father said. Why? You've never watched yours. Elena headed for the door. Sophia slept with my boyfriend in your house, and you said nothing. But I fall in love with someone, and suddenly I'm the family embarrassment. It's different, her mother said weakly. Yeah, it is, because I'm happy, and you can't stand it. She left before anyone could respond. Outside, the November air was cold enough to hurt. Elena walked 3 blocks before her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello? Miss Rossi? This is Caroline Webb. We met at the dean's office. Victor's lawyer. Elena's heart kicked into overdrive. Is Victor okay? He's fine, but we need to talk. Can you meet me tomorrow morning? There's a coffee shop on 5th and Madison. Is this about the investigation? Among other things. Caroline's voice was carefully neutral. 10 a.m. I'll be there. Elena showed up 15 minutes early, ordered coffee she couldn't afford, and waited. Caroline arrived exactly at 10, looking like she'd walked off the set of a legal drama. Perfect suit, briefcase, expression that gave nothing away. Thank you for coming, Caroline said, sliding into the booth across from her. Is Victor in trouble? Legally? No. The university concluded its investigation. No policy violations, no evidence of grade manipulation, no grounds for further action. Relief flooded through Elena. So he's clear? Clear of official charges, yes, but the court of public opinion is less forgiving. Caroline pulled a folder from her briefcase. Which brings me to why I asked you here. She slid several photographs across the table. Elena's stomach dropped. The photos showed Victor entering buildings, meeting with people, getting into cars. But it was the last set that made her blood run cold. Victor with a woman. Blonde, beautiful, elegant. They were having dinner, laughing, the woman's hand on his arm. Who is she? Elena's voice came out strangled. Rebecca Laurent, Victor's former assistant. The woman he'd had an affair with while his wife was dying. He said she disappeared, that he paid her to leave. She did leave, moved to Paris, built a successful consulting firm. But she's back in the States now. Has been for 3 weeks. Caroline's expression was sympathetic. They've met 4 times since the university investigation started. Elena couldn't breathe. I'm telling you this because you deserve to know what you're dealing with, Caroline continued. Victor Valente is a complicated man with a complicated past, and when he's cornered, he tends to retreat to familiar patterns. You think he's sleeping with her? I think he's protecting himself the only way he knows how, by pushing away anything that makes him vulnerable. By pushing me away, you mean? Caroline didn't deny it. Elena stared at the photos, her chest tight with something that felt like grief. She'd known this could happen. Victor had warned her. But knowing and experiencing were 2 different things. Why are you showing me this? She asked finally. Because Victor asked me to. Elena's head snapped up. What? He asked me to show you these photos, to explain what's happening, to give you an out. Caroline's voice softened. He thinks he's protecting you by making himself the villain. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Maybe, but it's very him. Elena gathered the photos, stacked them neatly, and slid them back across the table. Where is he? Elena? Where is he? Caroline studied her for a long moment. Then she pulled out a business card, wrote an address on the back. He has an apartment downtown, uses it when he doesn't want to be at the estate. She hesitated. He's not going to make this easy. I don't need easy. I need him to stop running. The apartment was in a sleek high-rise overlooking the river. Elena talked her way past the doorman, took the elevator to the 20th floor, and pounded on Victor's door until her knuckles hurt. He opened it, looking like hell, unshaven, rumpled, eyes bloodshot. Elena! She pushed past him into the apartment, expensive, minimalist, sterile, like a hotel room for someone who didn't believe in homes. You asked your lawyer to show me those photos, she said. Victor closed the door slowly. Yes. Why? Because you needed to see who I really am. I already know who you are. No, you know who you want me to be. He moved to the windows, stared out at the city. You see some broken man you can fix, some project. But I'm not fixable, Elena. I'm exactly who I've always been. You're right, you're not fixable. Elena's voice was steel. Because you're not broken. You're just scared. He turned to face her. Scared of what? Of being happy. Of letting someone in. Of admitting that you might actually deserve something good for once in your miserable life. I don't deserve you. Stop deciding what I deserve. She crossed the space between them, jabbed a finger into his chest. You don't get to love me and then disappear because you've decided I'm better off without you. That's not protection, Victor. That's cowardice. His jaw tightened. I'm trying to do the right thing. The right thing would be fighting for this. For us. There is no us. There can't be. Why? Because people talked? Because the university forced you out? Because your precious Rebecca is back in town? Victor's eyes flashed. That has nothing to do with— It has everything to do with it. Elena's voice cracked. You're using her as an excuse to run, just like you used your business as an excuse to run from your wife. Just like you've spent 10 years running from anything that might actually make you feel something. You don't know what you're talking about. Then explain it to me. Tell me why you've met with her 4 times. Tell me why you're holed up in this apartment instead of fighting for what we have. Because I'm poison. The words exploded out of him. Everyone I've ever loved, I've destroyed. My wife, my son, and now you. I'm not going to let you waste your life on someone who'll only drag you down. That's not your choice to make. Yes, it is. He grabbed her shoulders, and for a second she thought he might shake her. Instead, he just held her there, his face inches from hers. Walk away, Elena. While you still can, find someone your own age who knows how to love without destroying everything he touches. I don't want someone my age. I want you. You want the idea of me, the fantasy. I want the man who sat with me in a hospital stairwell while I cried. The man who told me I wasn't small. The man who looked at me like I was the only thing in the world that mattered. Tears streamed down her face. That man is real, Victor. I know he is. His grip on her shoulders loosened. For a moment, she saw past the walls to the raw hurt underneath. What if I hurt you? He whispered. You already are. Elena, you're hurting me right now by pushing me away, by deciding what's best for me without asking what I want. She covered his hands with hers. If you want to end this, end it. But don't do it because you think you're protecting me. Do it because you don't love me enough to try. I love you too much to try. That doesn't make any sense. It makes perfect sense. He pulled away, ran his hands through his hair. If I love you, if I really love you, then I want what's best for you. And that's not me. Stop telling me what's best for me. Elena's frustration boiled over. I'm not a child, Victor. I'm not some naive girl who doesn't understand what she's getting into. I know exactly who you are. The good, the bad, the parts you hate about yourself. And I choose you anyway. You shouldn't. Well, I do. So deal with it. They stared at each other across 5 feet of expensive hardwood, both of them breathing hard. Rebecca means nothing, Victor said finally. She came back because she heard about the investigation. Wanted to help. We had coffee. That's all. I don't care about Rebecca. You should. She's a reminder of every terrible choice I've ever made. We all have terrible choices in our past, Victor. That's called being human. Elena moved closer. What matters is what you choose now. I'm choosing to let you go. No, you're not. Because if you really wanted me gone, you wouldn't have told Caroline to show me those photos. You would have just disappeared. She stopped inches from him. You wanted me to come here. You wanted me to fight for you because you're too afraid to fight for yourself. His expression cracked. Elena, tell me I'm wrong. He couldn't. I'm terrified, he admitted quietly, of hurting you, of becoming my father, of being the kind of man who destroys everything he touches. Then don't be that man. Be the one who stays, who fights, who chooses love even when it's hard. It's not that simple. It never is. She took his face in her hands. But I'd rather have complicated with you than simple with anyone else. Victor closed his eyes, leaning into her touch. You're going to regret this. Maybe, but it'll be my regret to carry. Elena. She kissed him. For a second, he didn't respond. Then something in him broke, and he was kissing her back like she was oxygen, and he'd been suffocating. His arms came around her, pulling her close, and Elena melted into him. When they finally broke apart, both of them were shaking. I'm still not good enough for you, Victor murmured against her lips. Shut up and kiss me again. He did. They didn't make it to the bedroom. Collapsed on the couch instead, hands everywhere, mouths desperate. When they finally came up for air, Elena's shirt was half unbuttoned and Victor's tie was somewhere across the room. We should slow down, he said, but his hands were already sliding under her shirt. We should. Elena tugged at his belt. We're not going to. No, we're not. They made love right there on his ridiculously expensive couch, fast and urgent and desperate. Afterward, Elena lay against his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow, feeling more complete than she had in weeks. This doesn't solve anything, Victor said into her hair. I know. People are still going to talk, judge. Let them. Your family doesn't get a vote. Elena propped herself up to look at him. I meant what I said. I choose you. Whatever that means. Plus Victor studied her face like he was trying to memorize it. You're going to get hurt. Probably. But I'd rather be hurt with you than safe without you. That's a terrible philosophy. Yeah, well, I learned from the best. He almost smiled. Then his expression grew serious. There's something else you need to know, he said, about why I came back to teach. Elena's stomach tightened. Okay. It wasn't random or coincidental. Victor sat up, ran a hand through his hair. I knew Adrian was dating someone from the university, knew he was bringing her around the house, and I wanted to see what kind of girl could put up with my son's ego. You came to the university because of me? I came because I was curious, stayed because... He trailed off. Because what? Because the first time I saw you in class, you challenged me on democratic theory and didn't back down when I pushed back. And I thought, this is someone worth knowing. Elena's heart did something complicated. That's incredibly creepy and incredibly romantic at the same time. That's me in a nutshell. Victor. Her phone rang. She ignored it. It rang again. You should get that, Victor said. Elena grabbed her phone, saw her brother's name, and felt ice flood her veins. Marco, what's wrong? It's Dad. He collapsed. We're at the hospital. You need to come now. The world tilted. I'm on my way. She hung up, already scrambling for her clothes. What happened? Victor was already on his feet, pulling on his pants. My father. Another heart attack, maybe. I don't know. Her hand shook so badly she couldn't button her shirt. I have to go. Victor finished buttoning it for her, his movements quick and efficient. I'll drive you. You don't have to. I'm driving you. They made it to the hospital in 20 minutes. Victor broke every speed limit, ran 2 red lights, and didn't say a word the entire drive. Just held her hand across the console while Elena tried not to fall apart. At the hospital, her family was already there. Her mother, Sophia, Marco, all clustered in the same waiting room where they'd been a month ago. Her mother looked up when Elena rushed in. Her eyes went past Elena to Victor standing in the doorway, and her expression hardened. What is he doing here? She demanded. Mom, not now. I asked you a question. He drove me, that's all. Elena turned to Victor. You should go. Elena, please, I'll call you later. He hesitated, clearly torn. Then he nodded once and left. Sophia waited until he was gone before speaking. Really, Elena? You brought him here? Shut up, Sophia. I'm just saying I said shut up. Elena turned to her mother. How's Dad? They're running tests. Another blockage, they think. Her mother's voice was thin. The doctors are talking about surgery. When? As soon as they stabilize him. Elena sank into a plastic chair, all the fight draining out of her. This was real. Her father could die, and she'd spent the last hour fighting with Victor instead of being with her family. Guilt crashed over her in waves. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I should have been here sooner. Her mother sat beside her, took her hand. You're here now. That's what matters. They waited. Hours bled together. A doctor came out eventually, explained the procedure in terms Elena barely understood. Bypass surgery. Risky, but necessary. Her father was strong enough to survive it, probably. They wheeled him into surgery at 8 p.m. At midnight, Elena found herself alone in the cafeteria, staring at coffee she didn't want. Her phone had died an hour ago. She had no charger, no way to call Victor, no way to tell him what was happening. Not that it mattered. He'd probably already gone back to pushing her away. Rough night? She looked up to find a man standing beside her table. Late 30s, expensive suit, familiar in a way she couldn't place. You could say that, she said. Mind if I sit? Free country. He set down his own coffee. You're Elena Rossi. Not a question. Elena's guard went up. Do I know you? Not yet, but we have a mutual acquaintance. He extended his hand. Thomas Crawford. I work with Victor Valente. Elena didn't shake his hand. What do you want? To warn you. Thomas leaned back, studying her. Victor's planning to leave the country. London office needs someone to run their international division, and he's accepted the position. The words didn't make sense. What? He's leaving in 2 weeks. Thought you should know. You're lying. Am I? Thomas pulled out his phone, showed her an email chain. Sure enough, flight confirmations, apartment listings in Kensington. A contract dated 3 days ago. Elena's vision blurred. Why are you telling me this? She managed. Because Victor's my friend, and I've watched him run from happiness for 10 years. I'm tired of it. Thomas pocketed his phone. He thinks leaving will protect you, make everything easier, but we both know that's bullshit. He didn't tell me. He wasn't going to, planned to just disappear. Thomas stood. You seem like a smart girl, Elena. Smart enough to know when someone's worth fighting for. He left her sitting there, world crumbling around her. Victor was leaving, moving to London, disappearing without even saying goodbye. After everything, after she'd fought for him, chosen him, laid her heart bare. He was still running. Elena sat in that cafeteria until dawn, crying silent tears into cold coffee. By the time her father came out of surgery, alive, stable, expected to recover, she'd made a decision. She was done fighting for someone who refused to fight back. Elena borrowed a charger from a nurse and turned on her phone to find 23 missed calls from Victor. She deleted every single one without listening to the voicemails. Her father woke up that afternoon, groggy and weak, but alive. Elena sat by his bedside, holding his hand while he drifted in and out of consciousness. When his eyes finally focused on her, really saw her, he squeezed her fingers. You're here, he said, voice rough from the breathing tube. Of course I'm here. Your mother said you brought someone. A man. Elena's throat tightened. It doesn't matter. He's leaving anyway. Her father studied her face with the same analytical eye he'd used when she was 16 and came home past curfew. You love him. It wasn't a question. I thought I did, Elena said. Turns out I was wrong. Elena, you should rest, Dad. Save your strength. He didn't let go of her hand. I wasn't a good father to you. I know that. Always favored your sister, always expected you to just handle things on your own. Dad, you don't need to… Yes, I do. His grip tightened. Because I'm lying here realizing I almost died without telling you I'm proud of you. Without saying I see you. I've always seen you. Tears spilled down Elena's cheeks. You're the strongest person in this family, her father continued. Stronger than Sophia, stronger than your mother, stronger than me. And if this man makes you happy, if he sees what I see in you, then who cares what anyone else thinks? He doesn't see it. He sees someone he needs to protect from himself. Then he's an idiot. Her father's smile was weak but genuine. But sometimes idiots deserve a second chance. He's had 3 chances, Dad. I'm done being the only one fighting. Good. Make him fight for you. Elena wanted to laugh, wanted to explain that Victor Valente didn't fight for anyone but himself. But her father's eyes were already closing, exhaustion pulling him under. She stayed until he fell asleep, then headed home. Maya took one look at her and pulled her into a hug. Your dad? She asked. He's okay. Surgery went well. And Victor? Is moving to London in 2 weeks without telling me. That motherfucker. Elena laughed despite herself. Yeah, that about sums it up. She spent the next 3 days in a haze, went to classes, turned in assignments, moved through the world like a ghost. Victor tried calling 47 more times, sent texts that Elena deleted without reading, showed up at her apartment twice, but she refused to answer the door. On the 4th day, Caroline called. He's destroying himself, the lawyer said without preamble. Won't sleep, won't eat, just sits in that apartment staring at his phone waiting for you to call. Not my problem. Elena, he made his choice, Caroline. He chose to run, again. I'm just respecting his decision. He's scared. I know, I don't care anymore. Elena's voice was flat. I spent weeks fighting for him while he fought against me. I'm tired of being the only one who believes this is worth saving. What if he came to you? What if he actually fought? Then maybe I'd listen. But he won't. We both know that. She hung up before Caroline could argue. That night, Elena sat in her tiny apartment with Maya, splitting a bottle of cheap wine and pretending her heart wasn't shattered. You should slash his tires, Maya suggested. That's illegal. So is what he did to your mental health. Elena snorted. Pretty sure that's not actionable. It should be. Maya refilled their glasses. Want me to call him and tell him he's a spineless coward? He already knows. Want me to do it anyway? Maybe later. They drank in silence for a while. Outside, November rain pounded against the windows. You know what the worst part is? Elena said quietly. I knew this would happen. He told me who he was from the beginning, warned me he'd hurt me, and I did it anyway. That doesn't make it your fault. Doesn't make it not my fault either. Love makes us stupid, Maya said. It's basically love's primary function. Then I'm done being stupid. Good. You deserve someone who's not afraid of happiness. Elena thought about that. About Victor in his study that first night, looking at her like she was something rare. About him in class, challenging her to be smarter, sharper, better. About the way he'd held her in his apartment, like she was the only solid thing in a world built on sand. I don't want someone who's not afraid, she said finally. I want someone brave enough to be afraid and choose me anyway. And Victor's not that person. No, he's not. Except 3 hours later, there was a knock on her door. Maya answered it while Elena pretended to be asleep on the couch. She doesn't want to see you, Maya said. I know, Victor's voice carried through the apartment. But I need to see her. Tough shit. You don't get to break her heart and then show up demanding access. I'm not demanding. I'm asking, please. Maya must have looked back at Elena because there was a pause. Then, 5 minutes. And I'm staying right here. Victor came into the apartment looking worse than Elena had ever seen him. Unshaven, rumpled suit, eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. He saw her on the couch and stopped. Hi, he said. Elena didn't respond. I'm not moving to London, he continued. Turned down the position this morning. Told them I had something more important here. Congratulations on your geography choices. Elena, your 5 minutes are running out. Victor moved closer, stopped when Maya made a threatening sound. I'm sorry for running, for not fighting, for being exactly the coward you said I was. Okay? Okay? He looked confused. Okay, you're sorry. I heard you. Now you can leave. That's it? Elena sat up, met his eyes. What did you expect, Victor? That I'd throw myself into your arms because you finally did the bare minimum of not fleeing the country? No, He ran his hand through his hair. I don't know what I expected. You expected me to make this easy for you, to do the emotional labor while you just show up and collect your redemption. Elena's voice was steady, cold. I'm done making things easy. I know I don't deserve... Stop. Stop saying you don't deserve things. Stop using your guilt as an excuse to avoid actually trying. She stood, crossed her arms. You want to know what you deserve? You deserve exactly what you've given yourself. Isolation, loneliness, a life of running from anything that might actually make you happy. Victor flinched like she'd hit him. But here's the thing, Elena continued. I deserve better than someone who couldn't see what we had, who couldn't fight past his own fear long enough to actually build something real. So thank you for the apology. Thank you for not moving to London. But it's too late. Don't say that. It's true. Elena, please, you broke my heart, Victor. While my father was in surgery fighting for his life, I was sitting in a cafeteria finding out from your colleague that you were planning to disappear without even saying goodbye. Her voice cracked. Do you have any idea what that felt like? I was trying to protect you. By lying? By running? Elena laughed bitterly. That's not protection. That's abandonment. And I've had enough people abandon me to know the difference. Victor's face crumpled. I'm so sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix this. Then what does? Tell me what to do and I'll do it. That's the problem. You want me to tell you how to fix this, to give you a roadmap to redemption. But I can't do that, Victor. You have to figure it out yourself. I don't know how. Then I guess we're done here. She turned away, couldn't look at him anymore. Heard him take a step toward her, heard Maya block his path. You should go, Maya said firmly. Elena, she said you should go. A long silence. Then footsteps. The door opening and closing. Elena collapsed back on the couch and let herself break. The next week passed in a blur of numbness. Elena threw herself into schoolwork, spent 16-hour days in the library, avoided anywhere she might run into Victor. Her father came home from the hospital, and Elena visited daily, grateful for the distraction. Her relationship with her family was still fractured, but her near-death experience had softened some edges. Her mother stopped asking about Victor. Sophia stayed away. Marco actually talked to her like she was a human being. Small victories. It was Maya who noticed the car first. That black Mercedes has been parked across the street for 3 days, she said, peering out their apartment window. Elena glanced over. Sure enough, Victor's car sat in the same spot it had been in since Tuesday. Is he living in there? Maya asked. I don't know, and I don't care. Elena, I mean it. Whatever he's doing, it's not my problem. But it was hard to ignore, hard to pretend she didn't feel his presence like a physical weight. Hard not to wonder if he was eating, sleeping, taking care of himself. On the 4th day, she broke. Marched across the street at 7 a.m. in her pajamas and pounded on his window. Victor jolted awake, looking like absolute hell. He rolled down the window. What are you doing? Elena demanded. Waiting. For what? For you to tell me what to do. I already told you I can't do that. Then I'll wait until you can. His voice was rough from disuse. However long that takes. This is insane. Probably. You can't just live in your car. Watch me. Elena wanted to scream. Victor, this isn't romantic. It's pathetic. I know. Then why are you doing it? Because I don't know what else to do. His dark eyes were bloodshot but determined. You said I needed to fight. So I'm fighting. This is me fighting. By camping outside my apartment like a stalker? By not running. By staying even when you tell me to leave. By proving that I'm not going anywhere this time. This isn't proving anything except that you've lost your mind. Then I've lost my mind. He leaned back in his seat. I'll be here when you're ready to talk. Or not talk, whatever you need. Elena stared at him, this brilliant, broken man who'd somehow convinced himself that suffering in a car was equivalent to emotional growth. You're an idiot, she said. I know. This doesn't fix anything. I know that too. She walked back to her apartment, trying to ignore the way her chest ached. 2 more days passed. The Mercedes didn't move. Elena watched from her window as Victor sat in that car through rain and cold, occasionally getting out to stretch or grab coffee from the shop on the corner. He looked worse each day, thinner, more haggard, like he was physically falling apart. On day 6, Maya staged an intervention. Okay, this is ridiculous, she said. Either talk to him or call the cops. But we can't keep living like this. Like what? Like we're in some weird standoff where he's slowly dying in a German luxury vehicle outside our building. Maya grabbed Elena's shoulders. I know he hurt you. I know you're scared. But that man is clearly losing his mind, and you're not doing much better. I don't know what to say to him. Then don't say anything. Just listen. What if he hurts me again? Then you'll survive. You survived Adrian, survived your family turning on you, survived your dad's heart attack. You're the strongest person I know, Elena, but strong doesn't mean alone. Elena looked out the window. Victor sat in his car, staring straight ahead, waiting. What if I'm not ready to forgive him? Then tell him that, but at least let him out of the car before he gets hypothermia. That night, Elena walked across the street with a thermos of soup and 2 cups of coffee, tapped on Victor's window. He looked up, surprise flickering across his exhausted face. She gestured for him to get out. He did, moving stiffly, clearly in pain from days of sleeping in a cramped space. You look terrible, Elena said. You look beautiful. Don't do that. Sorry. He took the coffee she offered. Thank you. They stood on the sidewalk, November wind cutting through their clothes. This is stupid, Elena said finally. You sitting out here like some tragic hero. I know. It doesn't prove anything. I know that too. Then why are you doing it? Victor was quiet for a long moment, because for the first time in my life, I'm more afraid of losing you than I am of getting hurt, and I needed to prove that to myself as much as to you. Elena's chest tightened. Victor, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking you to take me back or trust me or give me another chance. He set down his coffee, faced her fully. I'm just asking you to let me prove that I can be the person you deserve, however long that takes. That could take years. Then it takes years. I could decide I'm never ready. Then I'll have spent my time loving someone extraordinary. His voice was raw, which is better than spending it running from her. Elena wanted to stay angry, wanted to hold on to the hurt and betrayal and fear, but standing there looking at Victor, really looking at him, past the fear and the walls and the self-hatred, she saw something she'd missed before. She saw someone trying. I'm not going to make this easy, she said quietly. I don't want easy. I'm going to make you work for every inch of trust you broke. Good. And if you run again, if you even think about running, I'm done. No second chances. No dramatic gestures, just done. I understand. Elena studied his face. Do you? Because I need you to really understand what I'm saying. I can't be the only one fighting anymore. I can't be the one who always has to be brave while you hide behind your guilt. I know. Victor's hands were shaking. I'm terrified, Elena, of hurting you, of becoming my father, of proving everyone right who said I'd destroy you. But I'm more terrified of living without you. Then prove it. Not by sitting in a car or making grand gestures. Prove it by showing up every day and doing the work. I will. Prove it by being honest with me, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I will. And prove it by getting help, real help, because whatever demons you're fighting, I can't fight them for you. Victor nodded slowly. I already called a therapist. Have my first appointment tomorrow. Good. Elena's voice cracked. Because I can't love you and fix you at the same time, one or the other, but not both. I don't want you to fix me. I want you to love me while I fix myself. Can you do that? Fix yourself? I don't know, but I'm going to try. They stood there in the cold, staring at each other. I need time, Elena said finally, to figure out if I can trust you again. Take all the time you need. And you need to go home, shower, eat, sleep in an actual bed. Okay? And Victor? She met his eyes. If I decide to give you another chance, and that's a big if, things are going to be different. No more protecting me by pushing me away. No more making decisions for both of us. We're equals, or we're nothing. Equals, he repeated. I can do that. Can you? I'll learn. Elena picked up the thermos of soup, handed it to him. Then go home, get some rest, and we'll talk when I'm ready. When will that be? I don't know. Could be days, could be weeks. I'll wait. Not in your car. Fair enough. Victor started toward his car, then stopped. Elena? Yeah? Thank you for not giving up on me completely. I haven't decided if I'm giving up or not, but you're welcome. He smiled, small, fragile, but real. Then he got in his car and drove away. Elena went back inside where Maya was waiting with wine and questions. So? Her roommate demanded. So nothing. I told him I needed time. And he's going to wait while I figure out if I can trust him again. Can you? Elena sank onto the couch. I don't know. Part of me wants to. Part of me thinks I'm being an idiot. You're not an idiot. You're someone who loves a very complicated man. He's seen a therapist. That's good. That's progress. Is it? Or is it just another performance? Maya sat beside her. I think you'll know the difference when you see it. You're good at reading people, Elena. Trust yourself. What if I'm wrong? Then you'll survive. Again. Victor kept his distance for 2 weeks. No calls, no texts, no dramatic gestures, just silence. But Elena heard about him anyway. Through Caroline, who called to say Victor had attended every therapy session and started making amends with people he'd hurt over the years. Through Thomas, who mentioned Victor had stepped down from several business ventures to focus on teaching and consulting. Through Maya's friend, who worked at the hospital, who reported that Victor had made a substantial anonymous donation to the cardiac care unit. He was trying. Elena spent those 2 weeks thinking about what she wanted, about whether love was supposed to feel this hard, about whether she could trust someone who'd broken her heart so thoroughly. She also spent time with her father, who was recovering slowly but steadily. They talked more in those 2 weeks than they had in years, about her mother, about Sophia, about the ways families fracture and heal. "Your mother and I almost divorced once," her father told her one afternoon, "years ago. I'd been having an affair with someone at work." Elena's head snapped up. "What?" "We worked through it, went to counseling, rebuilt trust." He smiled sadly. "It took 3 years before she could look at me without flinching. But she gave me the chance to prove I could change. And I did." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because second chances are hard. They require both people to do work they'd rather not do, but sometimes they're worth it. And if they're not, if he hurts me again, then you'll know you tried everything, and you can walk away with no regrets." Elena thought about that, about regrets, about the difference between giving up and knowing when to let go. On day 15, she texted Victor. "We need to talk." He responded immediately. "When and where?" "Tomorrow, 2 p.m. The Italian place. I'll be there." Elena showed up 10 minutes early, nervous and uncertain. Victor arrived exactly on time, looking better than he had in weeks. Still thin, still tired, but cleaner, more present. "Hi," he said, sliding into the booth across from her. "Hi." They ordered coffee. Neither touched it. "I've been thinking," Elena said finally, "about us, about whether this is salvageable." Victor's jaw tightened, but he didn't interrupt. "And I keep coming back to one question. Why me?" "What do you mean?" "You could have anyone, someone your own age, someone without complications, someone who fits into your world." Elena met his eyes. "So why me? And don't say because I'm special or different or any of that bullshit. I need the real answer." Victor was quiet for a long moment. "Because you're the first person in 10 years who made me want to be better. Not for my business or my reputation or my legacy, just better. For you." That's a lot of pressure to put on someone. "I know. And that's part of what I'm working on in therapy. Learning to want to be better for myself, not just for you." "Are you? Getting better?" "I don't know. Maybe. Some days are harder than others." He rubbed his face. "But I'm showing up, doing the work, not running even when I want to." "What about Rebecca?" "What about her?" "Thomas said you met with her 4 times. "I did. The first 3 times were about business. The 4th time was to apologize for how I treated her 10 years ago. She deserved that. And she told me I was an idiot for letting you go. Said any man who'd give up someone who fought for him that hard deserved to be alone." Victor's mouth curved slightly. "She's happy now, married, 2 kids, living the life I couldn't give her." Elena absorbed that. "Do you regret it? Ending things with her?" "I regret how I handled it. The affair, the lying, the way I used her to avoid dealing with my wife's illness. But no, I don't regret that she's not part of my life now. We weren't right for each other. And us? Are we right for each other?" Victor reached across the table slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he took her hand. "I think we could be," he said quietly. "If we both do the work, if we're honest with each other, if we stop running." "I haven't been running." "Haven't you?" His thumb traced circles on her palm. "You've been so focused on me running that you haven't acknowledged your own fear." Elena pulled her hand back. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you're terrified too, of getting hurt, of choosing wrong, of ending up like your mother, married to someone who disappoints you." Victor's voice was gentle. "And that's okay. But we both have to be brave here, not just me." He was right. Elena hated that he was right. "This is going to be hard," she said. "I know. We're going to fight, hurt each other, screw up." "Probably. And there's no guarantee it'll work." "No, there's not." Elena looked at him, really looked at him, saw the fear in his eyes matching her own, saw the hope underneath it, saw someone willing to try even knowing they might fail. "Okay," she said. Victor blinked. Okay? We can try, slowly, with boundaries and honesty and a lot of very uncomfortable conversations. I can do that. And if you run again, I won't. Victor, I won't. His voice was firm. I'm done running. From you, from myself, from happiness. I'm done. Elena wanted to believe him. Part of her did. Part of her was still waiting for the other shoe to drop. Then prove it, she said. Every single day. Prove it. I will. They sat there, hands across the table, touching but not quite holding. The beginning of something fragile and uncertain, and maybe, possibly, worth the risk. So what now? Elena asked. Now we figure it out together, one day at a time. That's incredibly cliché. Yeah, well, Victor smiled. My therapist says I need to embrace vulnerability and emotional authenticity. How's that working out? It's terrible. I hate everything about it. Elena laughed, and just like that, some of the tension broke. Come here, Victor said. She slid around the booth until she was sitting beside him. He put his arm around her shoulders, pulled her close, and for the first time in weeks, Elena let herself relax into his warmth. I missed you, he murmured into her hair. I missed you too, even when I hated you. Fair. They stayed like that until their coffee went cold and the waiter gave them pointed looks. Then they left together, walking slowly through the November afternoon, taking the first careful steps towards something that looked almost like trust. It wasn't easy. Nothing about rebuilding trust ever was. They started with coffee dates, neutral territory, time limits, conversations that stayed safely in the present instead of drowning in the past. Victor showed up exactly when he said he would, never pushed for more than Elena was ready to give, and slowly, painfully slowly, the sharp edges between them started to soften. 3 weeks in, Elena agreed to dinner at his apartment, not the sterile downtown place, but the estate, the place where everything had started. Are you sure? Maya asked as Elena got ready. That house has bad juju. It's just a house. It's the house where you found your boyfriend screwing your sister and then met his emotionally unavailable father. That's not just a house. That's a trauma origin story. Elena laughed despite her nerves. Victor's different now. We're different. If you say so. But I'm keeping my phone on loud in case you need an extraction. Victor met her at the door wearing jeans and a sweater instead of his usual suit. Somehow that felt more intimate than anything else. Seeing him casual, unguarded, human. Hi, he said. Hi. He'd cooked. Actually cooked, not ordered in or hired someone. The kitchen smelled like garlic and wine and effort. You made risotto, Elena said, surprised. I used to cook all the time, before everything got complicated. Victor stirred the pot, not looking at her. Thought maybe it was time to remember what that felt like. They ate at the kitchen island instead of the formal dining room. Talked about small things, her classes, his consulting work, a book they'd both read. Nothing heavy, nothing that required excavating old wounds. It felt almost normal. After dinner, Victor led her to his study, the same room where she'd cried that first night, where he'd given her scotch and told her she wasn't small. I want to show you something, he said. He pulled out a leather journal, worn at the edges, filled with handwriting Elena recognized as his. My therapist suggested I write letters, Victor explained, to people I've hurt, people I need to forgive. Myself. He handed her the journal. I want you to read them. All of them. Victor, I don't need... Yes, you do. Because you need to see that I'm actually doing the work, not just saying it. Elena opened the journal slowly. The first letter was to his wife, pages of apology and grief and regret. The second was to Rebecca, acknowledging how he'd used her and discarded her. The third was to Adrian, confronting years of emotional distance and failed fatherhood. The fourth was to Elena herself. Her hands shook as she read it. Victor's words were raw, unpolished, brutally honest. He wrote about his fear, his self-loathing, the way he'd sabotaged the best thing in his life because he couldn't believe he deserved it. He wrote about loving her, about wanting to be better, about the specific ways he planned to change. When she finished, tears streamed down her face. You don't have to say anything, Victor said quietly. I just needed you to know that I'm not just talking. I'm actually trying to understand why I do the things I do. so I can stop doing them. Elena set down the journal, crossed the room, and kissed him. It was different from their first kiss, less desperate, more intentional, a choice they were both making with open eyes. When they pulled apart, Victor rested his forehead against hers. "I love you," he said. "I know I've said it before, but I need you to hear it when I'm not running or panicking or trying to push you away. I love you, Elena Rossi, and I'm going to spend every day proving that I'm worth the risk you're taking on me." "You're already worth it," she whispered. "You just have to believe it too." They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other in the room where everything had started, building something new from the wreckage of what had broken. The next morning, Elena woke up in Victor's bed, actually slept there, nothing more, and found him already awake, watching her. "That's creepy," she mumbled. "I was memorizing your face." "Still creepy," he smiled. "I made coffee." They had coffee in bed, talking quietly about nothing important, and Elena realized this was what she'd been fighting for. Not grand gestures or dramatic declarations, just this, simple, quiet, real. Her phone rang. Her mother. Elena almost didn't answer, but Victor nodded toward it. "Take it," he said. "I'll be downstairs." She answered reluctantly. "Mom?" "Elena." Her mother's voice was strained. "We need to talk. About Sophia." Elena's stomach dropped. "What about her?" "She's in trouble. Bad trouble." 20 minutes later, Elena was dressed and heading to her parents' house. Victor drove her without being asked, held her hand without saying a word. Inside, her family sat in the living room looking shell-shocked. Sophia sat in the corner, mascara smeared, eyes red from crying. "What happened?" Elena asked. Her father gestured to Sophia. "Tell her." Sophia wouldn't meet her eyes. "Adrian and I broke up 3 weeks ago, and I found out yesterday that he was married. The whole time we were together. His wife lives in Boston." The room spun. "You're joking," Elena said. "I wish I was." Sophia's voice was hollow. "She called me yesterday. Said she knew about the affair, knew about you too. Said Adrian does this all the time, finds young women, plays them, disappears when it gets complicated." Elena sank into a chair. "Oh my God." "He played us both," Sophia said quietly. "Used us both. And I was so busy competing with you that I didn't see it." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Elena started laughing. Couldn't help it. The sheer absurdity of it all. Adrian's betrayal going deeper than either of them had known. Both sisters victimized by the same man. The cosmic joke of it all. "It's not funny," her mother said. "It's hilarious," Elena managed between laughs. "In a completely horrible way." Sophia was staring at her. "You're not mad?" "Oh, I'm furious. But not at you." Elena sobered. "Adrian's a sociopath. He knew exactly what he was doing, pitting us against each other, making us both feel like we'd won something. We never stood a chance." "I'm sorry," Sophia whispered. "For sleeping with him, for hurting you, for being a terrible sister. I'm sorry too. For not seeing that you were struggling. For always assuming you had it easier." Their mother looked between them, confused. "So you're just forgiving each other?" "No," Elena said. "But we're starting to understand each other. That's different." Sophia stood, crossed the room, and pulled Elena into a hug. It was awkward and tearful and complicated, but it was real. "I'll never forgive myself," Sophia said into her shoulder. "Good. Use that to be better." Elena pulled back. "We both will." Outside, Victor waited by the car. Elena filled him in on the drive back to her apartment. "Adrian's married," Victor repeated, voice dangerous, "to someone in Boston, apparently for 5 years. I'm going to kill him. Get in line." Victor's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "I knew he was selfish, immature, but this—" He stopped, jaw working. "I failed as a father, completely. This isn't your fault. Isn't it? I taught him that people were disposable, that power mattered more than connection, that running was easier than facing consequences." Victor pulled over, put the car in park. "I created a monster." "No, you created a person. What he did with that is on him." Elena took his face in her hands. You can't control your son's choices any more than my parents could control Sophia's. People make their own decisions. He hurt you, twice. And I survived, twice. Victor closed his eyes. I'm going to have to talk to him. Set things right. Do you want me there? No, this is something I need to do alone. Elena understood. Some confrontations required solitude. The conversation with Adrian happened 2 days later. Victor didn't give Elena details, said some things needed to stay between father and son. But whatever was said, something shifted. Adrian sent Elena a formal apology via email, announced he was moving to California, and cut ties with his father completely. He said I had no right to judge him, Victor told Elena that night, sitting on his balcony overlooking the city. Said I was a hypocrite for lecturing him about affairs when I'd done the same thing. What did you say? That he was right. I had no moral high ground, but that didn't make what he did acceptable. Victor turned to look at her. I told him the difference between us was that I'd spent 10 years trying to be better, and he was spending his energy justifying being worse. How did he take it? About as well as you'd expect. Told me to go to hell, said we were done, left. Victor's voice was hollow. I lost my son today. You can't lose something you never really had. That's supposed to make me feel better? No, but it's true. Elena moved closer, wrapped her arms around him. You were never really his father, Victor. You were his bank account, his excuse, his safety net. Now he has to figure out who he is without that. What if he doesn't? Then that's his choice, not your responsibility. Victor held her tighter. When did you get so wise? I've been taking lessons from this stubborn man who refuses to let me stay small. He almost smiled. Sounds like someone worth keeping around. He is. December came with final exams and snow and the slow, careful rebuilding of something that felt almost like a relationship. Victor and Elena fell into a rhythm. Dinners twice a week, coffee most mornings, long conversations that stretched into night. They fought sometimes, usually about Victor's tendency to pull away when things got hard. But they worked through it, talked instead of running, chose each other even when it was difficult. Elena's grades stayed solid despite the chaos. She finished the semester with a 3.8 GPA and a job offer from a political think tank that made her head spin. You should take it, Victor said when she showed him the offer letter. It's in D.C., that's 8 hours away. So, we'll figure it out. You're not worried? Terrified. But that's not your problem to fix. He pulled her close. Take the job, Elena. Build your career. I'll still be here when you come back. What if you're not? Then I'm not the man you thought I was. But I am, so I will be. She took the job, started in January, spent weekdays in D.C. and weekends flying back to see Victor. It was hard, exhausting, lonely, but it worked. Spring brought changes. Elena's father made a full recovery and started actually talking to his daughters instead of talking at them. Sophia enrolled in therapy, started dating someone age-appropriate, slowly became someone Elena could stand to be around. Maya got into law school and announced she was moving to Chicago. And Victor sold his business. Not all of it, kept enough consulting clients to stay busy. But he divested from the empire he'd built, donated most of the proceeds to cardiac research and education funds, and started teaching again. Not at the university, but at a community college where students actually needed help. You're serious about this? Elena asked when he told her. Completely. I spent 20 years building something that meant nothing. Time to build something that matters. Like what? Like a life that doesn't require running. Like a relationship with someone I don't deserve but refuse to lose. Like maybe, eventually, being someone my son could respect if he ever comes back. And if he doesn't? Then I'll have tried. That's more than I can say for the last decade. In May, Elena graduated. Victor sat in the audience between her parents, watching her walk across the stage to accept her diploma. When she found him afterward, he pulled her into a crushing hug. I'm so proud of you, he said. For graduating? For surviving, for being brave, for choosing yourself even when everyone told you not to. I learned from the best. You learned from yourself. I just got lucky enough to watch. That night, Victor took her to the Italian restaurant, their place, the booth where they had had their first real conversation, their first fight, their first attempt at rebuilding. He ordered wine, then reached across the table and took her hand. "I have something to ask you," he said. Elena's heart kicked into overdrive. "Okay. I know we've only been together, really together, for 6 months. I know you have your whole life ahead of you, and a career in DC, and probably 50 better options than a broken man with more baggage than sense." He paused. "But I also know that I love you more than I've ever loved anything. And I don't want to wait to tell you that I want forever." He pulled out a small box. Elena's breath caught. "I'm not asking you to marry me today," Victor continued, "or even this year. I'm asking if you'll consider it, someday. When you're ready. When we're ready." He opened the box. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, perfect. "Victor, you don't have to answer now. Keep the ring. Think about it. Hell, throw it in a drawer and forget about it for 5 years. I don't care. I just need you to know that when you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be here." Elena stared at the ring, then at Victor, then back at the ring. "You're insane," she said. "Probably. This is the worst proposal I've ever heard. It's not a proposal. It's a statement of intent. That's even worse." "I know." She started laughing, couldn't help it. This ridiculous, broken, beautiful man offering her forever without demanding anything in return. "Ask me again in a year," she said. "What?" "Ask me again in a year. A real proposal, not this weird non-proposal thing you're doing." Victor's face lit up like sunrise. "You're saying yes?" "I'm saying ask me again in a year. If we survive that long without killing each other, then we'll talk about forever." "I can work with that." He slipped the ring on her finger anyway. Elena let him. That night, lying in his bed with his arms around her and the ring glinting in the moonlight, Elena thought about how far they'd both come. From a girl crying in a stranger's study to a woman building a life. From a man running from happiness to one willing to fight for it. It wasn't perfect. They still fought, still struggled, still had moments of doubt. But they showed up. Every day they chose each other, and that was enough. A year later, Victor proposed properly, on one knee in the same study where they'd met, with tears in his eyes and his heart on his sleeve. Elena said yes before he finished the question. They married 6 months after that, small ceremony with just family and close friends. Elena's father walked her down the aisle. Sophia was her maid of honor. Maya cried through the entire thing. Victor's side of the church was smaller. Thomas, Caroline, a few colleagues. Adrian didn't come. They'd sent an invitation but received no response. It hurt, but Victor was learning to live with that particular wound. "You look beautiful," he said when they had a quiet moment alone. "You look terrified." "I am, but in a good way." "Is there a good way to be terrified?" "There is when you're standing next to the person who taught you how to stop running." Elena kissed him. "We're going to be okay." "I know. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." They were right. Marriage wasn't easy. They fought about money, about careers, about where to live and whether to have kids and how to handle family drama. But they fought fair, talked through problems, never let the sun go down on anger. 2 years in, Elena got promoted to senior analyst. Victor started a foundation supporting education for first-generation college students. They bought a house, smaller than the estate, bigger than her apartment, exactly right for 2 people building a life. 3 years in, Elena got pregnant. They hadn't planned it, hadn't really decided if kids were in their future. But when she saw the positive test, she knew. Victor cried when she told him, actually sobbed, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. "I'm going to screw this up," he said. "Probably, but you'll fix it. We both will." Their daughter was born on a snowy December night, screaming her displeasure at the world. They named her Sarah, after Victor's mother, a good woman who deserved better than the family she'd gotten. Victor was a nervous wreck as a father, constantly worried he'd repeat his own father's mistakes, that he'd be cold or distant or absent. But Elena watched him with Sarah and saw none of those things. Saw instead a man who showed up, who was present, who loved fiercely and without reservation. "You're a good dad," she told him one night while they watched Sarah sleep. "I'm a work in progress." "We all are. That's the point." 4 years after they married, Adrian reached out. A brief email, carefully worded, asking if they could talk. Victor stared at it for 3 days before responding. They met for coffee. Neutral territory. Elena offered to come, but Victor said no. This was something he needed to do alone. He came home 3 hours later looking exhausted but lighter. "How did it go?" Elena asked. He apologized. For everything. Said he'd been in therapy for 2 years working through his own shit. Wanted to make amends. "Do you believe him?" "I don't know. But I'm willing to try." Victor pulled her close. "You taught me that people can change, that second chances matter. I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't give him the same opportunity you gave me. Just be careful. Always." Adrian's re-entry into their lives was slow, cautious. Coffee once a month turned into dinner every few months, turned into occasional family gatherings. He met Sarah, was awkward and uncertain around her, but trying. It wasn't perfect. Probably never would be, but it was something. 5 years after their wedding, Elena and Victor returned to the estate. They'd sold it years ago, but the new owners were hosting a charity event and invited them back. Elena stood in the study where everything had started, Victor beside her. "You think about that night much?" he asked. "Sometimes. Usually when I need to remember how far we've come. We were a mess. We still are. Just a different kind of mess." Victor laughed. True. They stood there, hands clasped, looking at the couch where she'd cried, the desk where he'd given her scotch, the space where two broken people had collided and somehow built something whole. "Do you regret it?" Elena asked. "Any of it? The pain? The mistakes? The ways I hurt you?" Victor turned to face her. "Every single day. But I don't regret where we ended up. Even though it was hard? Especially because it was hard. Easy things don't teach you anything." Elena leaned into him. "You know what I regret?" "What?" "That we wasted so much time being afraid. We weren't ready, either of us. Maybe, but I wish I'd told you sooner that I loved you, that you were worth fighting for, that your past didn't define your future." "You told me when I needed to hear it." Victor kissed her forehead. "Right on time." They left the estate that night and drove home to their house, where Sarah was waiting with the babysitter and bedtime was already 30 minutes overdue. Life was messy and complicated and imperfect. It was also exactly what they'd fought for. 7 years after their wedding, Victor woke Elena up at 3 in the morning. "What's wrong?" she mumbled. "Nothing. Everything. I don't know." He was sitting up, staring at nothing. "I had a dream about my wife, my first wife." Elena sat up beside him. "What kind of dream?" "She told me it was okay, that she forgave me, that I should stop punishing myself." His voice cracked, and I realized I believe her. "Victor, I've been carrying this guilt for 17 years, using it as armor, as an excuse, as a way to keep people at a distance, but I don't need it anymore." He turned to look at her. "Because of you. Because you loved me enough to demand I be better but didn't require me to be perfect." Elena took his hand. "You're not perfect. I know. You're still kind of a mess. I know that too. But you're my mess. And I wouldn't change you." Victor pulled her close, held her like she was the only solid thing in a shifting world. Maybe she was. "I love you, Elena Valente. I love you too, you stubborn, broken, beautiful man." They fell back asleep, tangled together, and when morning came, they woke to Sarah jumping on their bed demanding pancakes and attention. This was their life now. Chaotic, imperfect, real. Built not on the fantasy of who they thought they should be, but on the reality of who they actually were. Two people who'd been broken in different ways, who'd found each other at exactly the wrong time, and who'd chosen to fight for something that everyone said was impossible. 10 years after that first night in the study, Elena and Victor threw a party. Not to celebrate their wedding anniversary, though that was coming up. Not for Sarah's birthday, though that had just passed. Just because they could. Because they'd survived. Because they'd built something worth celebrating. The house was full of people. Elena's family, mostly healed now from old wounds. Victor's small circle of friends who'd stuck by him through everything. Adrian, still distant but present, working on his own redemption. Colleagues from both their careers. Sarah's friends running through the house shrieking. At one point, Victor found Elena on the back porch, stealing a quiet moment alone. Hiding? He asked. Observing. There's a difference. He joined her, wrapped an arm around her waist. What are you observing? That we did it. Against all odds, we actually did it. Did what? Built a life. A real one. Not perfect, but real. Victor followed her gaze across the yard, where Sarah was teaching Sophia's daughter how to do a cartwheel, while Maya supervised with the wary eye of someone who'd recently passed the bar exam. We did, he agreed, though you did most of the heavy lifting. That's not true. It is. You fought for this when I was ready to run. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You made me want to be better. Elena turned in his arms, looked up at him. You want to know a secret? Always. You made me want to be better too. Made me realize I didn't have to be small or invisible or second best. That I could take up space and fight for what I wanted and demand more from life. So we saved each other. No, we chose each other. There's a difference. Victor kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Sarah was standing in the doorway making exaggerated gagging sounds. Gross, she declared. You're old. Stop kissing. Never, Victor told her. I'm going to embarrass you with public displays of affection for the rest of your life. Mom, make him stop. Can't. I'm complicit. Sarah rolled her eyes in the way only a 7-year-old could and ran back to her cousins. She's going to be a handful, Elena said. She gets it from you. Pretty sure she gets the dramatic flair from you. Fair point. They stood there watching their life unfold in front of them. Messy, chaotic, imperfect, beautiful. This was what they'd fought for. Not a fairy tale ending, but a real one. One that acknowledged the scars and the struggles and the fact that happy endings weren't really endings at all, just new beginnings. Later that night, after everyone had left and Sarah was asleep and the house was quiet again, Elena found Victor in his study. The room had changed over the years, softer now, lived in, full of photos and books and Sarah's artwork on the walls. But the couch was still there. The same one where she'd sat crying 10 years ago, where they'd first really seen each other. Come here, Victor said, patting the cushion beside him. Elena curled up next to him, her head on his shoulder. I was thinking, he said quietly, about that first night. When you walked into this room crying, and I had no idea you were about to change my entire life. I was a mess. You were magnificent, still are. Flatterer. Truth teller. He kissed the top of her head. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me. For fighting when I couldn't. For seeing past all my bullshit to the person I could be. You did the same for me. We're quite the pair. Yeah, we are. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only comes from years of choosing each other through good times and bad, through fights and reconciliations, through fear and faith. Victor? Elena said eventually. If you could go back to that night, knowing everything that would happen, all the pain and struggle and fear, would you still do it? He didn't hesitate. Every single time. You? Elena thought about the heartbreak, the public humiliation, the family fractures, the nights she'd cried herself to sleep wondering if loving him was the biggest mistake of her life. She thought about Sarah's laugh, about Victor's smile, about the life they'd built from broken pieces. Every single time, she said. Even the hard parts? Especially the hard parts. They made us who we are. Victor held her tighter. I love you, Elena Valente. More than I thought it was possible to love anyone. Pa, I love you too, even when you're being insufferable. Which is often. Very often. They laughed, and somewhere in the house Sarah called out in her sleep, and the life they'd built hummed around them like a promise kept. This was their ending. Not perfect, not wrapped up in a neat bow, but real. Two people who'd been broken finding wholeness not in each other, but through each other. Learning that love wasn't about fixing someone or being fixed, but about choosing to grow together. In the morning, they'd wake up and do it all again. Face new challenges, make new mistakes, choose each other one more time. Because that's what love was. Not a destination, but a journey. Not a fairy tale, but something better. Something real. And in a world full of facades and performances, and people pretending to be something they weren't, real was revolutionary. Outside, snow began to fall, covering the city in white. Inside, Victor and Elena sat together in the room where their story had started, holding each other in the quiet dark, grateful for every mistake and triumph that had led them here. Together. Finally. Home.